checking on plants after we hit 29. So this hydrangea here, I'm just gonna let it die and do its thing. I'm not gonna cut any of it. That right there's periwinkle, and there's the coneflowers. Coneflowers can handle several hours of freeze time. Here again, here's the periwinkles, and here's the coneflower. The coneflower doesn't even look phased. And the periwinkles vinca, same thing. Madagascar periwinkle, I think is the other name that it's called, but you can tell it definitely got hit. Texas tarragon still looks fine, like nothing ever happened. Something that's looking extra pretty right now is that verbena. Do you see this? How it's just popping out of the landscape? This is the time of the year that verbena shines. And if you take care of your verbena, I mean, I've had the same verbena in gardens for years. And you just have to be patient with them and understand their growth cycle. In the summer, they basically wither away to almost nothing. They'll be there, but they're not attractive, they're not blooming, and you just have to make sure that, you know, they still need to stay watered, and I trim them up to keep them tidy, but I don't fertilize them in the summer. I don't let a bunch of plants grow over them either. I mean, I'll let things grow around them, but I always leave a little space where I know that plant is, because I can see usually it'll just be one little stem like this, and then a bunch of dead growth, and it looks like the plant is just crap. But you just gotta be patient, because as soon as it cools down, this is what happens. It just starts emerging again, and look at all the growth it's putting out. And then it will continue to spread and take fruit in these new areas where it could just take up this whole corner. But this verbena specifically, it will stay blooming through the snow. I've had it in my yard with snow on top of it, and the blooms they didn't even phase them whatsoever. So this is a winter plant. I just love it. Like winter as in it's a winner, not a loser, not winter. But it is both. It is a winter plant and a winner to have in the garden, in the landscape. I cannot praise it enough. And there's a Homestead purple, and then I'm not sure if this is the Homestead hot pink, but the purple, this color pink, and the white ones. Those are the ones that have just been pretty foolproof and performed for me year after year. And I want to say this is the first flower it's made, maybe 10 months or so, and it just happens to be right after we had temperatures in the 20s, and you can see it's about to put out all these blooms. It's just such a pretty flower. It's very well behaved. It will sprawl around and cuddle and snuggle with other plants without taking over. And so that's another great trait for any type of creeping plant to have, because some of them do get carried away, and I just can't stand those. Okay, so this Lantana's pretty much had it. And I planted some baby blue eyes, I think right underneath it. I think I did. I'm gonna put a little more there today. Okay, so I'm gonna go and take these and dump them in this corner that I've been trying to get rid of jasmine. And I feel like if I just keep dumping stuff on it, by springtime, it'll stop coming back and maybe be smothered by then. But this is the area that has been really hard to get tamed down. This is a Rain Gold bush. This is the one we're letting stay here. This is where this plant is going to be allowed to dominate. And I'm probably thinking, because we have another freeze on the way the next time I come back to this garden, if that freeze comes like is anticipated, this will take it way down to the ground. I'm going to put a couple handfuls of bulbs over here. Let me go grab a couple handfuls. Okay, I'm gonna go here. And this is the method. Just kind of dropping them, and then I'm gonna plant them. I say I'm gonna plant them how they fall, but since I didn't like where they fall, I just moved them around until I liked it. Until they made a shape that I like. Just redrop. So I don't wanna obstruct this this Texas sage, but I think I'm gonna put a little bit back here. And I'm making like a little slot, and then I'm sliding the bulb under that slot, so I don't have to disturb the entire soil surface. Okay, so about 5 right there, and then 5 more right here. So I'm just making a little slot. I pick the shovel up and then I set it in there with the pointy side up. And then once it's in there, I slide the shovel out, let the dirt fall. You know that, the other method is digging a big hole, throwing them all in the hole and putting the dirt on top. You choose. But I know that these, they only come up for a couple months out of the year, because normally I would never plant something this close to the Texas sage or to this tree here, but since it's just for a couple months out of the year, bulbs are an exception. So many rules. Okay, there we go. So I've got a little bundle there and a little bundle back here. But last week I trimmed up this Camellia and I want to see how it's doing now. So it still looks like somebody took a bite out of that side, but it's much better off than it was. Much better. And it can just finish up blooming now. I can't even believe it bloomed with the condition that it was in and how covered up it was. Oh, it's actually still making some buds, so that's good. And then now maybe that's open, some of that growth may even lean in that direction and do something. Okay, so there's a couple things that I need to do in this area, and it's right next to the traffic, so hopefully you can still hear me. But I want to fix this light. It's crooked, so I want to give that a little better position. Then that area is where I planted the aster, and I need to get the verbena trimmed back so it can start doing its thing, because this is the time of year that it really can shine. Hope I don't want to disturb anybody who's hibernating. These are Rain Lilies, and I don't think they're getting enough sun under there. If you haven't ever grown Rain Lilies, if you ever see them for sale, get them. They take a good minute to come up from just the bulb, but they transplant really well and they multiply really well. And these have been pretty much an evergreen. They perform really well. I can't say really well enough, but they have a very sporadic bloom time. So I think the name is Rain Lily because they bloom when it rains. That's the only time I've ever seen blooms. I want to take some of these Rain Lilies and put them over there by the statue. I don't know if they'll do good there because the aster is pretty big, but I'm gonna divide these out because this little clump, this used to be the only size clump of Rain Lilies that was in this garden 2 years ago. And every spring and fall, I've been kind of pulling them up and repositioning them. And now I have 5 or 6 clumps this size. And I even brought a couple home and I have just as many clumps of my own now. So I'm gonna leave that clump of Rain Lilies there. I'm gonna put just this amount right here. And they don't get very tall. It's the other thing. They stay this height right here and very low maintenance. I can't remember if they die back in the freeze, but either way, they come back on their own. They don't need anything extra. Okay, so I still have this much left. And I wanted to try some right here in front of the statue, but the more I think about it, between the aster and the lantana, I don't think this is a good spot. This needs to go somewhere where it doesn't have a lot of competition, but can still be in the border without obstructing a sprinkler. And I think I'm gonna go for just right here around this light. I'm just gonna put half of what I have left there. And these will all multiply and double in size, probably by spring, but who's counting? Last year I moved some by the pond, the fish pond here, and I don't think they get enough light. So I may move those as well. But there's plenty of other areas to tuck in. There's always room to tuck in something like this. So I'm gonna tuck in some right next to this stone right here. Okay, so I'm planting the Bluebonnets. I already know that they need a very well draining area, and I've grown these at the farm that I worked at under other plantings. I actually like the foliage of these. I would put annuals in with them in the summer, and then in the fall I would just clear out the annuals, you know, from the warm weather, and then they would germinate. I mean, they would just keep coming up. The foliage is actually pretty though. It's a very unique foliage. So putting just little patches throughout the yard. They need good drainage and they need full sun. There's no compromise on the sun there. This area right here, I just removed the Rain of Gold here, and I think putting the Bluebonnet here, the Bluebonnets here, would be a great replacement. This corner, this is the south wall. This corner gets amazing sun. So I really need to see about transplanting that passion vine. It's like they're just popping up everywhere. But they just need to be like 1/8 inch deep and pressed into the soil or rolled or whatever. I'm just doing it the way I always have, and that's just by kicking them around and letting them do their thing. So I'm going to kind of use them as a ground cover over here under this Camellia. I know they'll never bother the Camellia, and I think it would be pretty. They only bloom once a year in the spring, but the foliage that they have is actually evergreen. It can survive through a freeze and everything. I am planting them a little late. You're supposed to plant these in the fall between September and December, and I'm already in January. I didn't find these. I didn't know my client had these in the garage. I didn't know she had them until a week ago. I had no idea. So what I'm doing is just trying to get them in the ground. They may not bloom this spring, but that's okay. You know, the sooner they're in the ground, the better. And then the summer annuals can still grow among them without hurting anything. And then I've got mulch here that I'm just going to kind of sprinkle on top. So I think another good place for these bluebonnets to me seems like maybe around these blueberries here. These are blueberry bushes. So I'm just going to sprinkle a patch there, and they will naturalize and do their thing. I'm not expecting these to bloom this year, but I'm okay. They can still just start growing and get established. At least they're getting in the ground, and the ground is better than the bag. The royal blue, I think I'm gonna put those right there. I'm gonna come through with a little bit of mulch and just gently sprinkle the tops of them in mulch. I mean, there's a lot of seeds in here. Planting thousands of seeds, I know, especially in that big bag. And I like to mix, I put annuals in here too, but where I know native blooming flowers are growing, I'm just putting the bluebonnets there because I know they like the same conditions. Whenever I see the coneflower growing, that tells me that it's a good spot for the bluebonnets too, because they like the same thing. They both need full sun and well-draining soil. So I'm taking advantage of just following the lead of the coneflowers. It's always been hard to get something to grow right here in front. So maybe this will be the ticket right here. And all along this back, this is the west wall garden. All along the west wall garden is where I'm planting these because the coneflowers do pretty good here. The timing that these bluebonnets come into bloom is just so perfect. They're like one of the first things to start popping up in early spring. So if they bloom this year, I don't think they're gonna bloom this year. I think they won't bloom till next year, but whenever they do, it's really nice. I think I'm going to put a little bit of bluebonnets where I've already planted baby blue eyes because I don't know what the baby blue eyes is going to do. So I'm just putting some of those in there for good measure. We'll see what happens. I do want to point out the eucalyptus is doing really well. The cuttings that I put straight into the ground, they're doing amazing. This is the area that got down to 29 degrees, and I don't know how they're doing so well, but they're doing great. And I just planted some bluebonnets through here too. And let's go sprinkle this mulch on all the bluebonnet areas that I just planted. I've got about 30 minutes to sundown. Now, normally I'm not racing through a garden like this trying to do so many things, but there's a lot that I want to get done before the freeze. So you know, I'm being a little bit unrealistic trying to do it all. So I totally buried this area in bluebonnets. Every year, there's been periwinkles that come up here on their own for the last 3 years because I've just been cutting them up and letting them reseed. So the bluebonnets and the periwinkles can coexist because, at least I think they can. I haven't done it yet, but I believe they should be able to because they have different bloom times. And the bluebonnets are evergreen. They'll kind of fizzle back a little bit in the summertime, so that gives room for some warm annuals to come in and do their thing. And then when the warm annuals start fizzling out, the bluebonnets will kind of start coming in. And that's pretty much the pattern that they took when I planted them at the farm. But I'm showing you a picture of that. I had them in landscape bedded areas, and they just did great. They really did great. Now, they were already there when I started working at the farm, but it was just a very small patch. And so I started spreading them out and naturalizing them throughout the bed and down this gravel road, and it really did a good job. It was really pretty. So I'm hoping that, you know, they'll grow in a very similar way here and establish themselves the same way and complement the summertime plantings. Now, this blueberry shrub, I'm trimming it back just a little bit. I've never been able to reach the shrub and take care of it, so it can't be a bad thing to finally prune it. There's the dewberry vine. Okay, so it was coming from this direction. There's also all kinds of baby rain of golds coming up over here that I'm just going to contend with those in the spring. I'll probably regret saying that. Oh my gosh. And I'm probably going to contend with the dewberry vine in the spring too. I know it's going to come back. I still haven't found where this dewberry vine is coming from. So the blueberry bush right here is really deformed and warped looking because it's always had a giant rain of gold right in front of it, which has no business being here. It's just as warped as this camellia. Everything in this camellia is kind of like hugging the center, and it hopefully will learn that, hey, it can come out on this side, and then that blueberry bush can hopefully actually turn into a bush, because right now it is everything but a bush. And I can get one of those mulch bags down here. Now, this might have a little too much coverage on it for the bluebonnets. I think they're supposed to be at 1/8 of an inch. So I'm gonna spread this out a little extra thin. At least I'm gonna try. And I don't know if that was a requirement for light. I don't know if it even was a requirement at all. I just know that it said up to 1/8 of an inch. So I was gonna try to keep it within that. This is the west wall garden. And I know that I drizzled a bunch of bluebonnets along the west wall garden. So I'm just topping them off so I didn't have to bury them with this little mulch. I almost forgot that I have some tulip bulbs to plant. When you plant tulips, it's really just a one-time thing here in this region. Don't expect them to come back and bloom because it doesn't get cold enough here, and they require a really cold soil temperature for a very long time that we simply can't produce. That's why they're always grown in Holland. And of course, they just make the print so small. I can't see how tall they're gonna get to know how far back to put them. Okay, 12 to 18 inches. So with that in mind, I think I'm gonna, I don't want to put them in front of the statue, but I feel like right here is good. So, because the tulips, they're just a one-time thing. And just giving it a gentle drizzling. I don't want to cover the bulbs up, but it's okay. This area could use just a little bit more mulch anyway. There's a lot of baby coneflowers coming up right here that I'm going to show you what they look like. If you grow coneflowers, make sure you pay attention here because a lot of people don't realize that coneflowers are self-seeding. Here's a coneflower right here, and this is a seedling from that coneflower over there. Now, this is a baby coneflower right here. Let me show you some more because I know there's more in here. Now, these with the scalloped leaves are not baby coneflowers. This is another weed that was tricking me last year. This is a baby coneflower. And they're very similar, but the straighter leaf right here, these are coneflowers. These are coneflowers. They're just more elongated. This one has scallops. This is not a coneflower. It's very similar, very, very similar. Here's another one with scallops. I've got to remove all the one with scallops because they're not. If I turn it over and I see those scallops, I feel like they're more obvious that way. But anyway, this is the coneflower. You see how even when I flip it over, the edges are smooth. So that's how I know. Let's see if I can move that Mexican petunia. This is a baby coneflower right here. So they're just kind of mixed in among other plants. And I usually wait till they get this size before I will transplant them to where I want, just to make sure, because there are imposters out there. I'll wait till they get a good 5 or 6 sets of leaves before I consider transplanting them. And this is a little bed that I redid a few weeks ago. Took all the rocks apart, redid it, and I just love the way, so far, I really love the way it's filling in and coming out. It's just looking really pretty. A few weeks ago, I planted sweet peas right there, and they're coming up. Not as many as I would like, but they're coming up.
I hope you enjoyed this edition of Garden Beauty and that you'll join me again next time.